This week's Red Dwarf contains scenes which are unsuitable for younger viewers and people of a nervous disposition. You have been warned.
As ominous as that sounds, I'm not really sure what it's for. I guess this is the raunchiest episode so far, but there are later episodes that are arguably worse.
Danger.
Anyway, an audible warning comes from a pod that tells us that there was a creature on board that was very hostile, and it somehow made its way onto Red Dwarf. It's also really ugly, and a shapeshifter.
Not too little, and not too much.
Meanwhile, Lister is cooking. Maybe that's what the warning at the beginning was about. Lister is using nearly a whole can of chili powder in a kebab. Be afraid. And we see the first appearance of Crichton's groinal socket.
What, so you just like stick the head whisk attachment on the end and you can like whip up a Spanish omelette?
But it's amazing how few people are prepared to eat them.
We actually get to see an example of that in Season 7 when he uses it to stir everyone's coffee. I love how he randomly high-fived Cat on his way out. Back to the horrors of Lister's cooking. Apparently he got all the utensils from the medical unit.
Lemon juice? What the hell is that? It's a syringe. It's for cows. Artificial insemination.
Now why would that be on a mining ship?
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when even the guy who eats live fish is grossed out by your cooking.
Hey, you think I got nothing better to do than hang around watching you serve chicken chasser in a stool bucket?
So the polymorph sneaks in the form of a basketball, and while Lister is distracted while looking for who threw it, it turns into a sausage on his plate. Meanwhile, Rimmer is watching old home movies.
That's me there. Those are my brothers, John, Frank, and Howard.
I gotta give credit to the show for staying consistent with the names of Rimmer's brothers, as far as I can remember anyway. Anyway, Crichton makes probably the best faux pas ever.
Old girlfriend, Mr. Arnold, sir?
Hardly.
Not really your type, I suppose. Silly old trout like that.
She's my mother.
I am so sorry, sir.
Just forget it.
I've no fish to embarrass you further. I'll let myself trout.
Ah, puns.
Oh, sir, I don't...
But Holly detects a non-human life on board.
I get a moment's peace in this place.
It's my own recipe, you know. Shami kebab Diablo. It's beautiful, man. It's like eating molten lava. I got one for Peterson once, you know. He was in sick bay for a week.
So the polymorph attacks Lister and gets away, and then turns into a pair of Lister's boxers, which begin to shrink after he puts them on. And of course, Rimmer walks in at the most awkward moment possible.
Well, I can't say I'm totally shocked. You'll bonk anything, won't you, Lister?
Stay classy, Red Dwarf. The polymorph then turns into a snake, which is Lister's second worst fear.
What's your first?
And then this thing, which looks a bit like a xenomorph.
This?
So while Lister is in sickbay, Holly and Crichton have figured out what the polymorph is. It's not an alien, of course, but a failed experiment from Earth.
So what did go wrong?
It's insane.
It's a shapeshifter that takes specific forms to elicit an emotion from its prey, and then it feeds on said emotion. In Lister's case, it terrified him and then drained his fear.
What are we gonna do?
Well, I say let's get out there and twat it.
This is the first time I ever heard twat used as a verb, and I kinda love it.
One swift knee and a happy sax, it'll drop like anyone else.
So Lister losing his fear causes him to become extremely hostile and aggressive.
I'm gonna rip out its windpipe and beat it to death with a tonsil end.
I'll share my thoughts on that at the end.
Pal, you starting trouble.
Just a little something to calm you down, sir.
Come on then, all of you slags.
So Rimmer, Crichton, and Cat go to find the polymorph. Colorful lighting aside, this scene feels a bit like Alien. Actually, Red Dwarf references Alien and Aliens a lot. I'll have to go into that more sometime.
It's in the shadows, it's in the shadows. There!
Also, we're seeing bazookoids for the first time.
Sorry, my fault. False alarm.
Unfortunately, these ones are the heat-seeking variety. Yeah, I think for the first time ever, Cat is wishing he was less hot. After a fun chase scene, he manages to lock the projectiles in a room.
What are you looking for?
But Polymorph disguises itself as a female cat, and Cat falls victim to his own vanity. And stupidity. By the way...
I'm sure I have a window in my schedule somewhere.
That's the only time I've ever caught Danny's accent slip. I like to think he got so caught up in the moment he forgot he was supposed to be acting for a second.
Oh my goodness! Are you all right?
I love how Crichton pets him, that's kind of adorable.
But according to the psi scan, he appears to have lost an emotion.
Also, where would they be without the psi scan to tell them whatever they needed to know at any given moment?
Now look at him.
Oh, please, I feel so
Guilty!
Yes.
Of course that wasn't Rimmer. You'd think he'd care enough about the cat to get angry. And now Crichton has lost his guilt.
Come on, grab the cat and let's go.
Oh, screw you, Hadron head.
Meanwhile, Polymorph manages to get into the medical bay and take the form of Rimmer's mother.
You've just had my mum.
5 times. He was like a wild stallion. He was like a set of pistons in an ocean liner engine room. I honestly thought my false teeth were going to fall out.
Wow, so much TMI.
The things this boy can do with Alpha Betty Spaghetti.
Alpha Betty Spaghetti!
And that's where he draws the line. Also, there's no point in having a Best Face award for this show. Rimmer would win every episode. And now Rimmer has lost his anger.
Look, just because it's an armor-plated alien killing machine doesn't mean it's a bad person.
So, the plan ends up being that Lister will let the polymorph eat him, and while it's distracted, Crichton will kill it. Meanwhile, Rimmer will protest, and Kat will probably hold up a sign made of a piece of cardboard saying something like, "Please help, God bless." Yeah, there's a lot of homeless people in my area.
What are we going to call ourselves? Which is the Committee for the Liberation and Integration of Terrifying Organisms and their Rehabilitation into Society. One drawback with that, the abbreviation is clitoris.
As luck would have it, they end up opening the door where Kat has trapped the heat-seeking projectiles earlier, killing the polymorph, and somehow this results in them getting their emotions back.
What am I wearing?
Oh, how can you ever forgive me, sirs?
I'm not gonna bother questioning it. However, it turns out that there were 2 polymorphs in the pod. And in case you didn't notice Lister walking by twice. And so ends Polymorph. This episode is a fan favorite, and it's one of mine too. But I just can't keep myself from nitpicking something, and that's the fact that some of their behavior isn't exactly consistent with their characters and with what emotion they're lacking. Basically, Lister turns into a violent asshole, which is funny, but are we really supposed to believe that fear of repercussions for those actions was the only thing keeping Lister from being that way by default? I mean, I know Lister is supposed to be flawed, but he's also supposed to be noble underneath it all. I just don't really see how that's motivated by fear. I also don't see how anger is the only thing motivating Rimmer from becoming this guy. Rimmer is military-minded, and he's motivated by... Actually, I think he's more likely to be motivated by fear. Fear is a huge part of Rimmer's personality. Hell, his cowardice is a running joke, not to mention his constant fear of failure. Crichton I won't be as hard on. Guilt is more of a legit motivation of doing the right thing, and in Crichton's case, he's basically still learning what emotions are and how to deal with them, so I can imagine that his are less complex than that of Lister and Rimmer. I think Kat's is the one that makes the most sense. Vanity is the thing that keeps one motivated to keep up one's appearance, and it kind of ties in with self-confidence. But that said, none of this ruins the episode for me or anything. Red Dwarf just runs on rule of funny sometimes, and I accept that. At the end of the day, it's a sitcom. It's great that it can be thought-provoking at times, but it doesn't always have to be. Plus, the actors clearly had fun with this episode. Oh, and despite the sequel hook at the end, there is really no direct sequel to this episode. There is an episode in Season 6 called Emohawk Polymorph 2, but it really isn't a true sequel. It involves them landing on a planet where they encounter a different polymorph. Also, at some point, the ending to this episode was remastered and included epilogue text saying that the second polymorph hid in Lister's underwear drawer where it eventually died of old age. According to Doug Naylor, the change was because he was getting tired of fans asking what happened to the second polymorph. Next up is Body Swap. See you then.
Duty to contact other life forms, exchange information, and wherever possible, bring them home.
What about the Rimmer Directive, which states never tangle with anything that's got more teeth than the entire Osmond family?